Hello, everybody. We are live in the tribe, and I am not Keith Crowder, but I am Joanna Crowder. Welcome. And today, Keith Crowder will be the one going over mirrors. I cannot wait. We just actually took 10 minutes, which felt like half an hour, to meditate before doing this. And I'm very excited. I cannot wait. So first, before we get into it, I just wanted to say thank you to everybody that attended the workshop, that watched the replays, that did the homework. Remember, it's all for you to level up. And then we are going to basically do the giveaway for those that did the homework, every single day for the entire workshop. And yep. And we have Tanya and Sarah as the two that stuck by the entire time doing it. So thank you guys. Let's basically see who wins and we can get started with the live today. Hey, RL. All right. So we are ready to tap and spin and see who wins the QE chakra tune-up with the QE team. And the winner is Sarah. Congrats, Sarah. So you will be basically working with 4 of your favorite QE team members, whatever chakras you need help with, and whoever it is that you want to work with. So basically, congratulations. I cannot wait to get started. Bear with me while I change this for Keith real quick. How is everybody doing? Share screen. Gotta get technical here. All right. Here we go. Keith, you ready? Yeah. Uh-oh. Here we go. Actually, you can make it big when you're ready. You just click right here. Okay. All right. Bye, guys. Enjoy.
What's up, guys? So we're going to be talking about mirrors, recognizing, addressing, and overcoming. But before we do that, got my queen cup sitting in the queen's chair. So for today, I'm the queen. So before we get started, I want to say thank you to Joanna. Joanna, come back for a second. You guys, I know most of you probably know her story, but I've seen it from since she was 16 years old, and you know, she's always had a passion and she's always had a desire to help people, and you know, that's why she does what she does. The amount of hours and the amount of energy and the amount of time that she spends just hoping to help at least one person, and then the way she gets when she actually does, it's fucking amazing. So anyway, I wanted to thank her over the camera. I'm getting a little emotional. Hi, my name's Keith. Sun is Virgo, moon is in Pisces. You know what that means. You understand me. So anyway, I want to thank her. Hope you guys thank her as well. She's amazing. And, you know, anyway, started from the bottom. Now we're here. So only way we have to go is up. So I'm excited. But yeah, thank you. And please thank her as well.
Thank you. Love you.
So she's sitting in the background on my left-hand corner. So if you guys have comments, if you have questions, please type away. I'm probably not going to be paying much attention to the comments. She's there. She's going to whisper in my ear if you guys have questions. So again, please stop. One more thing before we get started, and I'm going to maximize the screen so you guys can see the words and read it. I'm going to be reading some of the things so you can follow along with me. But please let's take a moment and take a couple deep breaths. If you want to close your eyes, cool. If not, that's cool too. And really try to center yourself in a place where you're not feeling emotional. You're just accepting all the information as it's being given. Okay, so let's take a couple minutes. We'll just do 10 quick seconds. Again, a place of neutrality. We want to receive this information with an open heart and an open mind, and try to, you know, have zero judgment and just stick with what resonates you, whatever resonates with you, let it stick, and then sort of go from there. All right, as we go through this. So we'll just take a quick 10 seconds and then we'll get started. All right, let go. Let's see if I can remember how to do this. Boom, a natural. All right, so we're going to talk about recognizing, addressing, and overcoming mirrors. So this is a passion of mine only because, I've struggled with mirrors in terms of triggers, and we'll go into this in a little bit more detail. But that's being able to see mirrors and learning about this. I read this book called A Mirror of Love, if you could see it. Probably about 5 or 6 years ago. And it opened my eyes to a lot of my own personal issues, my inability to take responsibility for my own emotions, mind, reality, what have you. So I'm super passionate about triggers and mirrors only because I know how much it's helped me and changed me as a, father, husband, just person, human. So as we go into this next slide, I'm going to read this. This is a quote from Ram Dass. Again, just let this sit with you and kind of see what resonates with you as you read through this. So the final awakening is the embracing of the darkness into the light. That means embracing our humanity as well as our divinity. What we go from is being born into our humanity, sleepwalking for a long time until we awaken and start to taste our divinity, and then want to finally get free. As long as we grab at our divinity and push away our humanity, we are not free. If you want to be free, you cannot push away anything. You have to embrace it all. It is all God. So take a second and think about that. This is kind of the trend that we're going to follow, as we go over this information. Biggest sentence in there: as long as we grab at our divinity, in other words, we only focus on our God selves, striving to be perfect, and push away our humanity, our imperfection, we're constantly tied in a cycle. It's a never-ending cycle, right? So I hope that makes sense. Again, type those questions. Joanna's monitoring, and we'll adjust them as they go. So this is kind of our flow. A lot of information. I'm going to go through it pretty quickly. You can catch it on the replay. Cool thing about this is I tried to really integrate some of the overall things that Joanna teaches, and that we all sort of believe and want to strive to become. And the chakras were sort of a roadmap, right? A lot of this information, again, is sort of a roadmap towards enlightenment, steps to take, things to address. It's all internal, right? We're so busy being consumed with external. And, one of my personal beliefs is that science and sort of our technology has sort of molded into what an internal representation into an external representation. So, again, Wi-Fi, what is it? We can connect to anything. We can do that internally, but sort of technology and everything that modern day life sort of repeats is what we're pushing away because we're not going within, if that makes sense. So we'll talk about some universal truths, the laws of the universe. We'll go into duality, understanding judgment, guilt, and shame, identifying and reprogramming fears and beliefs, projection, reprogramming fears and beliefs, judgment about Mother, Father, God, creating your reality, and then lastly, sort of a closing creed, which is kind of like a prayer, but not really. All right, so universal truths. I believe these 100%. Again, everyone's going to sort of come from a different position, but just kind of let this sit and let this sink in as we go through this. I am the prime creator expressing itself as me, right? So God is all that is and contains everything. And everyone that is, has ever been, will be in all time and in all parallel dimensions and realities. This is the nature of existence, right? No one can create in my reality. So as an individualized aspect of God, I am endowed with the ability of creating my own unique experience of being God. That experience can only be unique if I'm the only one creating it. Because I am God expressing itself as me, I have no limitations on what I can create in my reality, including the illusion that someone else is doing the creating. Number 3, all events are neutral. There are no negative experiences. Although I can choose to define any experience as negative, therefore, if I'm experiencing negativity in my life, then I have chosen it. Negative or positive definitions are a personal choice of value judgment placed on any given situation or event for the purpose of an experience. It's getting deep. So number 4, there is only one vibration, and that is love. So fear, the opposite of love, is the illusion of absence or lack of love. The vibratory frequency of God is unconditional love. Everything, all it is created out of the essence of that unconditional love. So again, with that, The absence of love, there is no right or wrong, I believe, in God's eyes. There only is. We create the right or wrong through our own assignment of the belief, right? So how I feel is a reaction to what I believe. All emotions are responses to thoughts. Positive emotions are responsive to thoughts based in God's ultimate truth, unconditional love. Negative emotions are responses to illusionary thoughts based in fear. So how I feel is a reaction to what I believe. Went over that one. And then lastly, all disease is caused by the denial of negativity within. This one's a little, again, just kind of go through it, hold it, let it hold its place. But holding an erroneous belief system, especially in a suppressed or repressed form, creates an environment of internal discordance on a subconscious level. So over a period of time, denial of the judgment placed upon some aspect of oneself and then suppressed begins to alter the cellular structure of the area of the body where the memory of the event or circumstance is stored. This cellular alteration has been labeled disease when it is really emotional self-judgment. Yeah, won't go into too much detail in that one, but these universal truths all sort of go along one common theme, and that is personal responsibility, right? It's you are the prime creator. I am a God. God is in me, therefore I am a reflection of God. I have godlike abilities and godlike powers. And I wish Joanna was here to fire off some Bible verses, but there's a ton of verses in the Bible that sort of, mimic this statement. No one can create or create in my reality. Again, I'm taking personal responsibility for everything that happens in my life. All events are neutral. In other words, I assign the definition and the outcome and how I react to any event that happens in my life. There's only love, nothing else. And then how I feel is a reaction to what I believe, and all disease is caused, again, by the denial of negativity within. So, 4 laws of the universe. You create 100% of your reality 100% of the time. It is never about a person, place, or thing. And until you are Christed, every person, every place, everything has a potential of being a mirror to you, and you are God. So again, I mean, for me personally, and again, I can only speak from my journey. But when you start taking responsibility for things that happen in your life, when you take responsibility for your thoughts, when you stop gossiping, when you stop talking about your problems and go within, that's where the beauty is. That's where the change becomes. And that's sort of this book, The Power of Love, helped me realize that on so many levels. But it took me understanding and believing that I am an aspect of God, and that I have the ability through my chakras, through the chrism, through all the processes, the physiology that God created the human being, that if I understand that and I agree and I take responsibility for my mind, I can become Christ-like. And these 4 laws sort of reinvigorate that or repeat that. So getting into duality, 3D reality is only possible through the illusion of separation or polarity. So think about innocent versus guilty, happy versus sad, good versus evil. There has to be a dark and a light in order for judgment to occur, but it's all an illusion, and something that, again, we've been conditioned to focus on is only the 3D. And this is based on the separation of linearness of time, the separation and linearness of time. So quantum physics, proposes that time is not linear. Rather, the mimicking of time exists in multiple vertical dimensions. I'm not going to go into too much detail with that, but just something to think about. Quantum entanglement, that's kind of where Joanna and I got it from, was through quantum physics. But it's super interesting to kind of get into that and the linearness of time and how an illusion it is. I've always sort of personally thought, if the sun never rise and never set, how different would my perception of time be? Right? If I didn't look at a clock and I wasn't bound to the hours of the day through scheduling and work and various things, how different would my perception of time would be? And it's pretty cool to kind of think about that and meditate on that. What holds duality in its place is the belief system of right and wrong. Right? So when any component of duality is engaged, you're functioning in that third dimension. So that's where we get into the 4 components of duality, which is basically separation, comparison, judgment, and attachment. So if these 4 components are not present, then what you are having and allowing is simply just an experience. In a state of neutrality, you are moving your consciousness beyond duality and into the 4D. So if we feel we're in separation, if we're comparing, if we're placing that judgment, and then we're attaching an emotion or definition to that judgment, we're always going to be stuck in the 3D, right? But if we can rise above that and be in the moment and allow ourselves to understand and take responsibility for the creation of our reality, then we begin to move into that 4D state of consciousness, which again is just one more step closer to that Christ consciousness. And then 4D, the manifest, creates the 3D manifest. So here's a pretty good example. So hand in the cookie jar, right? So if I see someone stealing a cookie, taking a hand or putting their hand in a cookie jar and taking a cookie, and I see that, think about the judgment. If you're in that situation, you would assume that they're stealing the cookie. But again, it's a cookie. You can analyze that situation however you want. But I think it's a really good sort of way that we assign beliefs, and all the things we've sort of talked about so far, how we assign beliefs to things. And we basically create this reality within our mind, and then we feel an emotion, and then we express or project that reality onto someone else, right? So, you compare an act of taking the cookie to the act of stealing. You judge someone as guilty, which you have established as wrong in your own belief system. And then I label you as guilty and myself as innocent. And there goes the comparison, the judgment, and then the attachment. So I've attached a value to your act of being wrong. And that's kind of a good example of how quickly. But, this happens so fast in our minds. I mean, it happens in a matter of seconds. And, that's where, again, taking responsibility, meditating, being able to control and gain function of your mind, and understanding all of the aspects of the components of duality will kind of help you transcend that, rise above it. And it's almost like you look down at a higher level at a situation. Like there's a good example for me as I'm kind of preparing for this presentation. Everyone in the house is having a discussion, sort of not fighting, but it's escalated. And I'm over there just watching. And it's amazing how you watch emotional people interact, and it's just complete nonsense and garbage. When you're looking at it from a higher perspective, completely non-judgmental, just looking at it going, oh, this is interesting. So I had that experience last week, and it just nailed down and further showed me, number one, how far I've come, but also how powerful and how quickly we've been trained to do this through schooling and through education, through parenting, through society, right? So judgment, guilt, and shame. Words are energetically neutral until we attach a value or meaning through judgment. So judgment can be positive or negative, right? Think about the word hospital. If I say the word hospital, someone who's never had a negative experience in a hospital, maybe they've only had children, maybe only positive events have happened in a hospital, they're going to react and think completely different than someone who has had a family member die. Maybe they had a child that passed away in a hospital, whatever. So, that's kind of a good example of how strongly the duality can be simply through someone's past experiences. So a practical exercise with this. Pay attention to how many times you judge someone or yourself throughout the day. Track this for 1 day or 1 week, and you'll be amazed at the prevalence of guilt and shame and judgment in your life. I did this for 1 day, and I think I judged 104 times is what I counted. That was from the moment I left the house until the moment I got back home. I'm a Virgo, so Virgos tend to be a little judgmental. But I was super shocked, embarrassed, and I'm like, man, I got some damn work to do. 104 judgments. So think about that. We talked about the hospital. Guilt originates from the belief in separation. Sorry, give me 1 second. And then as guilt grows, it marries judgment. This creates a cycle of guilt, judgment, and shame. So when we feel shame, we will try and elevate our shame through a process called projection. When we project, we take the feeling of shame and place the shame feeling outside of ourselves onto another person, place, or thing. Right? With me? If we do this enough, we'll start to believe that our projection is not a projection at all, but it is truth, which then can lead to cognitive dissonance. So that's the judgment cycle. And this cycle creates discomfort, which creates a projection to get rid of the discomfort. So again, your subconscious mind, again, through your childhood, through growing up, through everything you've experienced up until this moment, is running all the time. And this happens almost instantaneously. Not to get off the subject, but I used to watch a lot of TV. Joanna and I used to watch a ton of TV. We don't watch much TV anymore, but reality shows, soap operas, sports, all that is sort of a replication of this cycle of just projecting your own crap onto somebody else and never taking responsibility for your own life, your own actions, your own thoughts, your own minds. We got any questions yet? I must be killing it then. On that note, let me take a sip from the Queen cup.
But can you explain why this was up?
Oh, yeah. So Joanna just asked why that picture is up. So thank you. I chose that picture because that's one of my pet peeves. If you give the finger to me, you are basically damning me. You are damning me to hell. That's like the worst thing you can do, in my opinion, right? So I have this issue, and I'm still working on it. But if someone gives me the finger, I go from 0 to 100 like real quick. Like I'm ready to fight. All consequences go out the window. Thank God I'm level-headed enough to reel it back in. But I chose that because if someone's giving me the finger, it's because I'm mirroring and they're projecting back to me my own freaking issue within myself. So while I'm being all whatever, damn that person, whatever, it's really me. It's that person in my life through contracts repeating back to me, you have some work to do, and this is going to continue to happen until you man up and handle your business, right? So anyway, thank you for reminding me of that. But that's my personal example. Where were we? So I think we were here. If we weren't here, please remind me. I'm sorry. So projections and its forums. So you guys can read through all those different types of projection. So once we understand the guilt, judgment, shame cycle, and that this cycle leads to projection, we can then begin to become aware of the many forms of projection, identify them, and how you use them in your life. And so for me, this is where the true healing starts, right? When you start to understand this process, the guilt, judgment, shame cycle, you start to understand how you rationalize things, right? How your reality become distorted because somebody does this, and all of a sudden I was peaceful, now I'm not. Complete distortion, which I justify through, you ain't gonna treat me that way, you're not gonna give me the finger, right? We've all done it. The manipulation, you escape it, you minimize it, you deny it, you blame it, you become defensive, and then you get angry, right? These are all projections of the guilt, judgment, shame cycle. So kind of a practical application. Next time someone projects onto you, sorry, getting emotional. Next time someone projects onto you, see if you can appreciate the experience of the projection. And I'm getting emotional because of where this is going. Hold compassion, doing it again, for that person, and understand that the person projecting onto you is asking for your love, right? How much does that change a situation, right? You will be able to calm yourself, be of service to the person projecting onto you. Man, if we all could practice this in our lives, how would that change the freaking world, right? So I'm gonna read that again, this last part. Hold compassion for that person. Understand that the person projecting onto you is asking for your love. And they're also teaching you a lesson if you're willing to accept it, if you're willing to open up and do this, rise above it, see it for what it is, that it's a reflection in a mirror of you, that the guilt, shame cycle is happening, and you just need to recognize it, acknowledge it, and then go home and figure out why it happens and then fix it. And, it's a process that it's never ending. I mean, I think I started my journey really digging deep into this stuff, 5-6 years ago? 5-6 years ago. And, it's amazing how messed up and how many things we have inside of us, from the smallest things that our parents said to us that they thought was just a passing comment, but it actually, you held on to it and you assign all these beliefs to it and you allowed it to define yourself. And your parents probably don't even remember saying it and really meant nothing by it. It was just kind of said in passing. Any questions yet? We good? So now we kind of get into reprogramming fears and beliefs. So remember the 3 universal fears. Let's go back to those really quick. Oh, those aren't on the slides. Help me with the 3 universal fears. Sorry, they're right here. Abandonment or rejection, fear of not being enough or unworthy, and then trusting in your power and surrendering to God. So that's, again, believing that you're God, or a part of God. We have all one major core erroneous belief. From that belief, all others evolve. So conscious creator, the story of the son that goes on a trip with his surgeon father. So you guys may have heard this before. So it's kind of a joke, but it's kind of a tool to help you kind of recognize how quickly we judge things and how conditioned we've been. So the father dies, right? His son and father go out on a trip. The father's a surgeon. I'm probably going to tear this up, but just bear with me. The father dies. His son's taken to the hospital, and the surgeon that's going to operate on him states, "I cannot operate on him because he is my son. So how can this be?" Immediately, most people think, well, his dad died, right? His dad was a surgeon, but his dad died. Who can be operating on him? When in fact, this is his mom, who was also a surgeon. So, you can kind of see through that example, if you were one of the people, which I was guilty of that as well. I'm like, oh, hold up. His dad's a surgeon. He just died. Who's the other surgeon? It didn't even occur to me that his mom could be a surgeon, because I grew up, we all grew up sort of thinking that men are the surgeons, men are the doctors. And it's just a small example of how deep the rabbit hole goes with our subconscious programming and the things that, we've been taught, since birth. So becoming consciously aware of your beliefs, and then you can become a conscious creator. When triggered, realize that you're in fear. Identify which fear you're working with, and then identify the belief that supports your fear. So as you begin to identify with your fears through your erroneous beliefs, you will begin the journey of inner healing, right? You good? Yeah. Sure. Sorry, guys, we're good. So again, as we begin to identify with our fears through these erroneous beliefs, for me, again, only through my experience do I understand this process, but that's where I started to heal. I realized that, as another example, I tend to pay attention to who's driving around me, in terms of if I speed up or if I slow down, it's almost like I want them to engage me, right? And since I read this book about 6 years ago and then reread it over the last couple of weeks, and it was like I've never read this book before, because I have grown so much. The book became it carried on a different meaning. It hit me deeper. And so, as this example, if someone gives me the finger, I'm immediately lit up. But it's because I was looking for it, right? So now when I drive, it's like I don't pay attention to anyone around me. Of course, I know my surroundings, but I'm not looking to see if anyone's reacting to me. I'm staying in my lane, literally. Well, not really. I drive fast, but I'm staying conscious of what I want, which is what's ahead of me. I'm not worried about the person next to me. I'm not worried about inviting judgment into my life. I'm just simply focused on that. And, this process in this book, it's amazing. If you have a chance to check it out, again, it's called The Power of Love. It's written in a really beautiful way, but it'll hit you in the mouth with kind of the truths that it makes you see. So judgments about mother, father, God. This is a huge one. Think about all the judgments that we develop in our childhood and we carry through adulthood, right? As a child, our first introduction to God is through our mother, father, caregiver, right? Like we idolize our parents. I mean, they're everything to us. And then we grow up and we realize that they're not that great. They got a lot of issues. They've said a lot of things to me, and we've been in a lot of fights, but we perceive them to be God. Right. And remember the 4th law. Everyone is God. Everyone is God. If I'm God and you are God, we are all God, and we are all creating a godlike moment through our own personal perceptions. And they reflect our identity to ourselves. That's the 2nd law. Every person, place, or thing is a mirror to you, and they help define your sense of self. So this is really cool to me. So think about the female caregiver. She reflects to you how you feel about yourself, or what you feel about how God feels about you. So think about kind of the relationship you've had with your mom. And then on the male caregiver side, he reflects to you what you think about yourself and what you think God thinks about you. took me a minute to kind of meditate on that and think about that. But come back to that and kind of replay that in your mind and go through some of your maybe childhood traumas that you haven't healed from, and look at it from that female male caregiver point of view. And again, it can lead to some tremendous healing. So creating your reality. Every experience begins with a thought. Thought is inherently neutral until accompanied by judgment. Thoughts plus judgments form beliefs and start the creation process in duality. Thought is limitless and infinite, meaning the realities available to us are as well. So exercise. Creating a parking space that's easy and effortless. I sort of did when I first started the journey. I wanted to try the red light, green light. If the light was green, that meant I was in alignment. If the light was red and I caught a bunch of red lights, I was probably in resistance. But this parking space one is pretty cool too. So how do we do this? So think about seeing the space being available to you with your mind, right? Feel the excitement of knowing that your space is ready for you when you arrive. Restate your intention in your mind in such a way that acknowledges the space is already there. Do it with conviction. Conviction is emotion plus will. If your thought, emotion, and feeling are aligned with love and you intend with more desire, you will more than likely manifest your intention. So think about that next time, try it out, right? Follow that step by step and see what happens. But don't give up. If it's not there, if the parking space isn't there, don't stop and say, this is stupid. Keith lied to me. Keith sold me some bullshit. No, just keep practicing it and keep practicing it and keep believing and keep believing it. But that's just a small example of how we can translate that into every area of our life. And it really is the power of the law of attraction, which I'm sure we're all familiar with that. Again, it's how we create is a reflection of our power. Why we create is the essence of our soul. When we create, it's called divine timing and everything is already perfect. We're good on questions?
Yeah, they're just all loving it.
And we're almost done, guys. This is the last slide. Damn, it's been 31 minutes already. So a closing creed. I hope you guys have sort of absorbed this. I know something's resonated with each and every one of us. But try to carry this out into your life. This closing creed is kind of a prayer. It's almost a promise to yourself and an acknowledgement of yourself. But again, I really hope that this can be put into use in your life. And again, if you put it into use and just keep trying and keep grinding and keep trying to improve every day, I mean, it's amazing, the relationships, the healing that you can have within yourself. I wish we spent as much time internally healing ourselves, as much time as we spend through our five senses, trying to just see, hear, and absorb all the things that are around us. When if we just take the time to ourselves and put these things in practice and go on a deeper level and understand that we create our own reality, accept the fact that we are God, own it, and implement these things into your life, man, it's endless. The power is endless. I mean, ultimately, we can become Christed if we can sift through all the bullshit and figure it all out. So closing creed. I now understand that is my judgment of evil that has perpetuated my lack and kept me from my true power. I am now changing my perspective and allowing my belief system to be completely altered so that I'm transformed at depth. I invite Spirit to facilitate this process in whatever way is for the highest and best. I accept the fullness of power and totality of Christ consciousness within my being. And I know that Spirit hears my request, and I intend to remember all that I have asked for and more. All right, guys, any questions? Thank you so much for listening. Hopefully, again, I did well and you guys absorbed some of this information. Again, thank you for watching. Appreciate it. Joanna's clapping. I don't know why. But thank you, guys. Peace out. I don't know how to turn this off. So there may be, if you want to hang on and hear me ramble for a couple more minutes, please do. Here she comes. Knock it out.
Wait.
Thank you, guys. Have a blessed day.
He did awesome. He did amazing. Look at all the comments, baby. Read them real quick. Excellent. Great job.
Real shit, man.
Real shit. It was all like depth, man. We'll go over the comments on our own and you can reply to some of them. Thank you guys. See you later. Next Wednesday, we have a special guest to talk about sacred womb healing. See you next Wednesday. Peace.